Hi, I'm Robert Reich, and the question is, why are Republicans having such a hard time learning the lessons from the 2012 elections? They are on the same suicide mission as before. They're trying to block immigration reform. If they can't scuttle it in the Senate, they're ready to try to scuttle it in the House. They are trying to roll back the clock on abortion rights. They're pushing federal and state legislation to ban abortions after the first 22 weeks. And they are on a rant again, trying to stop gay marriage wherever possible. You see, the problem is, as almost everyone knows by now, this puts them on the wrong side of history. America is becoming more ethnically diverse, women are gaining economic and political power, and young people are more socially libertarian than ever before. So by taking these positions, the Republicans are basically making themselves obsolete. Why can't they learn? It's no answer to say that their base, which is ever older and whiter and more rural and male, simply won't budge and won't let them change. I mean, the Democratic Party of the 1990s, remember, simply ignored its old base and became New Democrats, spearheading a North American Free Trade Act to the chagrin of organized labor, and I wasn't all that happy about it at the time, performance standards in classrooms, which were resisted by teachers' unions, and welfare reform and crime control, which upset many traditional liberals. Again, I was not one who was wildly happy about welfare reform. But look, we're playing politics. This is the real world. And Republicans are basically entrenched in their states. Certain rural states, mostly rural states, including most of the old Confederacy, plus some mountain states, Indiana and Wisconsin, which together exert more of a chokehold on the Republican National Party machinery than the old Democrats, who were spread widely but thinly over many states, exerted on the Democratic Party. So the Democratic Party could become a national party that had much more of a following and do many, many more good things and progressive things because it had that kind of power. You see, senators and representatives from Republican states naturally reflect the dominant views of their constituents on immigration, abortion, gay marriage, as well as guns, marijuana, race, and dozens of other salient issues. But these views are increasingly out of step with where most of the rest of the nation is heading. So this state-centered and relatively homogeneous GOP structure effectively prevents the party from changing its stripes. And despite all the post-election rhetoric about the necessity for changing the party, emanating from the GOP, emanating from leaders who aspire to the national stage is not really what the GOP is most interested in or attuned to. It is directed inward rather than outward, to its state constituents rather than to the nation. This structure also blocks any would-be new Republicans, such as Chris Christie, from gaining the kind of power inside the party that a new Democrat like Bill Clinton was able to gather in 1992. The only way they'd be able to attract a following inside the party would be to commit themselves to politics and policies they would have to abandon immediately upon getting nominated, as Mitt Romney did, with disastrous results, because he looked like he had, and he did not have, any principles. It's true that by 1992, Democrats were far more desperate to win the presidency, having been in the wilderness for 12 years, than today's GOP appears to be. But look, it's doubtful the GOP will be willing to eschew its old base, even if it loses the presidency again in 2016, because without its collection of relatively homogeneous states, there just isn't much of a GOP. The greater likelihood is a steady eclipse of the Republican Party at the national level, even as it becomes more entrenched in particular states. Those states can be expected to become sort of regressive islands of backwardness within a nation growing steadily more progressive. The GOP's national role will be primarily negative, seeking to block, delay, and filibuster measures that will eventually become the law of the land in any event, while simultaneously preaching states' rights and praying for conservative majorities on the Supreme Court. In other words, what we will have likely is more of the same. Thanks.